Medea Benjamin is the head of Code Pink. They're an anti-war group, and they're in favor of civil liberties. They're obviously very progressive, and they often do interesting protests. They did a famous one where they went and called Rumsfeld a war criminal as he was going to some sort of event, party, and everybody in D.C. was amused and bemused by it, like, oh, look at those people correctly assessing that Don Rumsfeld's a war criminal. Crazy. And so they often get dismissed because they do the one thing in Washington that's unacceptable. They are rude to other people in Washington. Now they're trying to represent the rest of the country and oftentimes the rest of the world in their protests, but of course, in Washington, no one gives a damn about that. So Medea Benjamin interrupted the president when he was giving his speech last week at the National Defense University. Now, I would do it in a different way, but I'm not part of Code Pink. Now, I think she interrupted him a little too much so that it became to a point where he had trouble speaking. Now, I like that she's making her point forcefully. We live in a free country, and I would have maybe counseled to do it once or twice and not maybe 4 times, right? But I'm not her, and at least she's getting her message out, and you can agree or disagree with it. But what's interesting is the media reaction, okay? Oh, they can't stand her. Part of the reason is she's embarrassing them. She's asking the questions or shouting the comments that the media should have been shouting for all these years through the Bush administration, Obama administrations, etc. So she's going to go on with Carol Costello here at CNN, who is going to do the most ironic thing. Now, we've edited all the different interruptions together here, right? Remember, she's criticizing Medea Benjamin for interrupting someone. Let's watch.
Hi, thanks for having me on the show.
So how did you get in?
Well, first I want to take objection with the term heckler because I actually had an invitation to get in policy
You clearly
changes.
Interrupted the president, though. That would be heckling.
Well, I don't call it heckling. I call it speaking out. I went to Pakistan recently, meeting with victims
But it seemed as
of
if the
drone
president
strikes.
was changing his tone on Gitmo and on drones. So you were kind of getting what you wanted anyway. So why go into this speech and heckle him when he's kind of talking in a way that you should welcome?
FBI, CIA, Homeland Security.
But all
He
of
could
these
have
things that
announced
you're
starting
talking
this
about
week.
don't have simple solutions, and the president just can't act on his own.
Of course he can, and they do have simple solutions. He can say we're going to account for all the innocent people who have been
he was
killed
going
and
down that
apologize
road.
to
Okay,
them.
let me ask you this again. It sounded to me like the president was going down that road anyway. 1, you appeared rude to the president of the United States, and 2, you just seemed a little crazy.
Oh, I love that on so many fronts. You see what a rude interrupter Medea Benjamin is? Okay, now look, I don't mind her interrupting in the middle of an interview to ask the next question, but then your whole premise of the interview can't be it is unacceptably rude to interrupt people, right? So that's point number 1. Point number 2, I mean, you know, I've said this in the past, you know, I think Fox News does propaganda for the Republican Party. Unfortunately, a lot of MSNBCs wind up becoming propaganda for the Democratic Party, not all of it, but a lot of it. And CNN does propaganda for both, whether it was the Bush administration or the Obama administration. Yes, sir, absolutely, sir. And here it appears that they're almost working for the administration. She's dressing down this American citizen. How dare you be rude to the president? The president was trying to give you what you want anyway. Why didn't you bow your head? No, but wait, CNN, you don't work for the president, or at least you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to work for the U.S. government. You're supposed to challenge the U.S. government. You're supposed to hear out Medea Benjamin and go, oh, that's interesting. You know, maybe we should do some investigative reporting about the things that she's talking about. The drone strikes, the abuse of our civil liberties here at home. Instead, you've done none of that, and you bring her on to yell at her for having the audacity to be rude to our president in a democracy. One more.
And I think killing innocent people with drones is rude. I think keeping people who are innocent in indefinite detention for 11 years is rude. I think not respecting the lives of Muslim people is rude. I think not apologizing to the families of innocent people who are killed is rude. There are a lot of rude things about our policy. Speaking out is actually not rude, but it's the basis of a democratic society where people use their voices to try to make our country better and our policies
I don't think many
more in line with
Americans
the rule of law.
would disagree with you, but I would think that some Americans at least would say there's a time and a place.
Well, exactly. I've been waiting for over 5 years when the president said he was going to close Guantanamo. The time for words is over. It's time for action. He is the commander-in-chief. He can do this on his own.
Two great things out of that. One, yeah, there's a time and a place, CNN. It's called press conferences. You're supposed to ask those questions, but you never do. That's why Medea Benjamin, Code Pink, and everybody else that ever shouts out at these things is left to do your job for you, because you never bothered to ask those questions, whether it was the Bush administration or the Obama administration. And point number two, I love the point Medea Benjamin was making there, because she said, look, the real things that are rude is when you kill hundreds of civilians in a drone strike. That's rather rude to them. But not in Washington, because they don't know those people in northern Pakistan. They don't know those people in Yemen. Even if they're U.S. citizens, they don't know them. They don't give a damn about them. They know the president, and they know that it is a bigger breach of etiquette to be slightly rude to the president than it is to accidentally kill hundreds of civilians, because they don't know those guys. No one at CNN knows those guys. All they know is, how are we going to be pleasant to one another despite whatever dreadful, horrible thing we might be doing to other people? That's exactly what's wrong with the insular Washington crowd. And if Medea Benjamin has to shout to get that message out, well, then God bless her heart.